Mateo Escarapur. He is the author of a new novel called Black Buck, which has been described as Wolf of Wall Street meets Sorry to Bother You meets Fight Club. All movies that I very, very much like. It tells a story of a young black salesman at an all-white tech startup. It's a story of how one man battles racism and microaggressions to get to the top of a cult-like startup. Mateo, thank you so much for joining us. Tell me, what's the book about? What is this? What is this book?
I know it's a lot. It's living up to high expectations, especially if you like those three movies. It's about a young man named Darren. He's living in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn with his mom in a brownstone that they own. He has his mother, his girlfriend, his best friend, his neighborhood, and they have him. He's working at a Starbucks at a Midtown Manhattan location. And one day, this suave white dude, really good looking, silver-tongued dude named Rhett Daniels comes in, and he's the CEO of a startup called Someone. And he says, just give me my regular. But for some reason, Darren says no. And the dude's like, give me my regular. But Darren convinces him to buy another drink. So Rhett, impressed, invites Darren up to the 36th floor. And Darren reluctantly joins the sales team there. But he soon realizes that he's not the only black salesman there. He's the only black person in the entire company. So he fights through racism that's overt and also subtle and almost mundane. And he gets to the top. But once he's there, he says, I don't like being the token black dude. So he hatches a plan to help other people of color infiltrate America's tech startup sales team, redefining what it means to be a minority in the workplace.
Now, I heard, I've never written a novel, but I've heard a truism that is like, you know what you got to do? You got to write what you know. So sure. I'm wondering, is anything in this novel ring true to your own personal experience?
Most definitely. I mean, I think what rings true are the feelings in the novel, what the characters feel. I have felt all of that. I have felt pride. I have felt ambition. I have felt betrayal. I've felt loss. And it was important for me to connect with myself deeply in order to imbue my characters with those same feelings that hopefully the readers will be able to feel. But in terms of my own autobiography, there are definitely some elements from my life that inspire this narrative. But as to which those elements are, people are just gonna have to read the book and then guess.
Now, and it strikes me that you chose the world of startups as your target for satire. I mean, I think most people see the startup world as, say, more progressive than, for example, an oil company or a weapons manufacturer or something like that, right? But you chose the startup world. Why did you do that?
Well, the startup world, while definitely being progressive in some forms, is still behind the ball in others, right? Discussing something like race in many startup organizations is a dirty word. You never discuss race, you never discuss politics, you definitely don't discuss religion. So for me, I thought that it was ripe, and it's funny because people in the startup world would say something's ripe for disruption, and I believe the same. But more concretely, it's because that's what I know best. I came from that world of startups. I came from that world of sales. I've been living in America as a black man for my entire life. So the intersection of those three things just gave me a certain competency, I believe, to tell a story that would ring true to myself, to those I want to serve, and also to the nation that we're living in right now.
Writing a novel, I mean, you're a young lad. You're what, 29? You make me 29. Feel incredibly inadequate. I'm 35 and I've never written a book. So
you got your own show, man.
Well, yeah, this is way easier than writing a novel. Let me tell you, just asking questions. Come on, you guys got to give me all the interesting answers. I don't have to do anything interesting. So what was that process like? I mean, would you just sit down and write? What's it like to write a whole friggin' book?
Yeah, well, the way you put it, I think, is the simple mindset that many people have to reach, which is you just sit down and write. Because if you overthink, then you're never going to come to the page, or you may get to the page, but then you'll stare timidly at a blank Word document. So to answer your question, none of this was really easy. This book, Black Buck, was the third manuscript that I'd worked on. The first two that I'd written never went anywhere. I didn't gain representation from an agent. I didn't get a book deal. They were really a form of trial and error for me because I don't have a formal writing background. I came from the world of sales and tech startups thinking that all of a sudden I was going to be this big writer. And then I was quickly humbled when it didn't work out, not once, but twice. So for Black Buck, I got to a place where I call it F it mode, basically, where I cared about getting a agent and a book deal for sure, but priority number one was to impress myself. And priority number two was to serve the people who I wanted the book to resonate with. So I got to a place where I could just, as you said, Nando, sit down and write and do it as often as possible and without as much judgment. And it worked out, fortunately.
Yeah. So like, is this gonna be your new thing? You're just gonna be a full-time writer, or do you see yourself going back to the world of sales, or is this gonna be now what you do? You're just gonna become a novelist.
And listen, brother, this book is like a face tattoo. There's no going back. there's no going back to those worlds. People know who I am and what I'm about. I'm certainly a writer, and I look forward to all that's to come.
And so I want to ask, like, you know, the novel is obviously satirical in a way. What do you think you want people to get out of it? Like, what is it that you want people to let's say learn after reading your book?
Well, it really depends on who we're asking. For some people, I want them to know that they're not alone in their experiences of being the resident other in some of these environments, that they're not paranoid, they're not overly sensitive, and they're not crazy when they think that something wrong is happening. And for other people, I want them to ruthlessly and honestly and with a large amount of courage examine themselves and their own role in this narrative of this book, but also of this world that we live in. And hopefully through that self-examination, through people not feeling alone, it'll lead to action, and action that leads to progress. Ideally, I know it's lofty, man.
No. Hey, honestly, I always say that politics happen. I mean, Steve Bannon was right that politics happens downstream from culture. That's a very Gramscian thing, and I subscribe to it 100%. So yeah, I'm with you. And I guess my question would be, now that you have the face tattoo and that there's no going back, give us a scoop. Are you kicking around any new ideas? What's next for you?
I feel fortunate that I'm not missing ideas, right? I in fact have too many ideas, so it's just about refining them and figuring out which ones to work on. So I am working on another novel. We got some screen-related things in the work. That's all I'll say. And I'm fortunate that people are feeling the book so far, and I'm just receiving new opportunities. So I take all of it with grace, and I look forward to the future.
Now, you, like me, have a very impressive bookshelf right behind us. Yeah. You have a bottle of wine. You got some nice stuff back there. Sure. What books have made a big impact on you that you've read that inspired you to sit down and write a friggin' book? Yeah,
well, one of them would be The Sellout by Paul Beatty. I was reading this around the time that I began this book, and that book is just insane. When people talk about satire and absurdity, that book showed me that if I took the time and I really worked on my craft, then I could push the envelope of what it means to write a book and what it means to write fiction. So that was certainly one. I'm a big Philip Roth fan. I'm a big Toni Morrison fan. A book like Tar Baby from Toni Morrison is incredible. Heads of the Colored People by Nafisa Thompson Spires. It just goes on and on and on. We don't have enough time, but yeah, those are just a couple books, as well as The Angry Ones by John A. Williams. That was a big one for me too.
Yeah, and it just strikes me also that you chose to make your hero a salesman. I mean, there's such a great tradition of salesman heroes, like Willy Loman, obviously the most famous one. Like, what is your hero like? What is his superpower, so to speak?
Well, he's somewhat of an anti-hero because he does get lost along the way. But one of his superpowers is that he rises to the occasion, whatever the occasion may be. And he comes to it with pure intentions. But like many of us, he becomes corrupted by power right? I believe it was a man named Lord Byron who said absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we definitely see that with our character. But I'm hoping that he has enough endearing traits for our readers to follow him through thick and thin. And then by the end, the reader says, okay, I might have not liked this guy for the majority of the book, but I understand why things happened and I'm still rooting for him.
All right, well, I think that's a good place to end it. Mateo, thank you so much for speaking to us. You know, this is going to be the first book available on the first fiction book available on the TYT shop, which is very exciting. You can find it there very soon. Mateo Scaripour, thank you so much. The book is called Black Buck. Check it out. You're going to enjoy it.
Thank you for your time. Be safe, everybody.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.